Imagine a typical Tuesday afternoon. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and the world feels perfectly predictable. But then, astronomers notice something strange lurking in the peripheral vision of our most powerful telescopes. It isn't a comet, and it isn't an asteroid. It is a planet, perhaps the size of Neptune or even Jupiter, emerging from the pitch-black void of interstellar space. It has no star, no heat of its own, and most importantly, no loyalty to the laws of our solar system. It is a rogue planet, a cosmic wanderer, and it is heading straight for our neighborhood. We like to think of our solar system as a fortress, a stable clockwork machine where every planet knows its place. But the reality is that we are drifting through a shooting gallery of invisible giants. Scientists estimate there could be trillions of these rogue worlds in the Milky Way alone, ejected from their home systems long ago, and cursed to roam the darkness forever. If one of these unanchored behemoths decided to pay us a visit, the consequences wouldn't just be catastrophic. They would rewrite the very physics of our existence. Today, we are breaking down the terrifying timeline of what would happen if a rogue planet entered our solar system, from the first moment of discovery to the final silent transformation of our home world. To understand why this is so terrifying, we first have to understand what a rogue planet actually is. Most planets form from the leftovers of a newborn star, swirling in a disk of gas and dust. But the early years of a solar system are violent. Gravity is a messy roommate. Sometimes, a smaller planet gets too close to a gas giant like Jupiter and gets slung out of the system like a stone from a literal slingshot. These planets are orphans. They wander the space between stars, reaching temperatures near absolute zero. Because they don't reflect any light from a parent sun, they are nearly impossible to see. We usually only find them when they happen to pass in front of a distant star, causing a brief flicker of gravity-induced magnification. If one were coming toward Earth, we might not even know it was there until its gravitational influence started tugging on the outer reaches of our world. The first sign of trouble wouldn't be a giant ball in the sky. It would be a mathematical error. Astronomers tracking the Kuiper Belt, that massive ring of icy debris out past Pluto, would notice that objects are being pulled out of their orbits. Suddenly, comets that have stayed put for billions of years would begin to dive toward the inner solar system. We would see a massive uptick in meteor activity. To the average person, it would just look like a spectacular year for stargazing. Governments and space agencies, however, would be in a quiet panic. They would realize that something with a massive amount of mass is pushing through the gate. As the rogue planet moves past Neptune and Uranus, the orbits of those giants would wobble. The very balance of the solar system, which has been stable for 4 billion years, would begin to unravel. As the rogue wanderer gets closer, the real problems start. Gravity is the most patient force in the universe, and its reach is infinite. Even if the rogue planet doesn't hit Earth directly, simply passing through the inner solar system would be enough to ruin us. If it passes between Earth and the Sun, or even just close enough to nudge our orbital path, the delicate equilibrium that allows for liquid water and a stable atmosphere would vanish. If Earth's orbit is pulled even 5% closer to the Sun, we would find ourselves on a planet that is rapidly turning into a pressure cooker. The oceans would begin to evaporate, filling the atmosphere with water vapor, which is a potent greenhouse gas. This would trigger a runaway effect, turning our lush green world into a scorched wasteland like Venus. But what if the rogue planet pulls us away? What if its gravitational tug slings us further out into the cold? In that scenario, the transition would be a slow, bone-chilling descent into a permanent winter. The first thing we would notice is the changing of the seasons. Summer would get shorter, and winter would become a brutal, unending experience. Crops would fail globally. The power grids would buckle under the massive demand for heating. Eventually, the surface of the oceans would begin to freeze. We are talking about a total transformation of the global climate in a matter of months, not decades. We would be watching our sun grow smaller and dimmer in the sky, becoming just another bright star in a sky full of strangers. But the gravity isn't just about our orbit around the sun. It's about the relationship between the Earth and the Moon. The Moon is the reason we have stable tides and a consistent axial tilt. If a rogue planet scales past us, its gravity could easily snatch the Moon away, or, even worse, push it into a collision course with Earth. If the Moon is pulled out of its orbit, the Earth's rotation would become unstable. The planet would begin to wobble like a dying top. This would mean that the North Pole could suddenly find itself at the equator. Tropical forests would find themselves under miles of ice, and Arctic zones would be thrust into the blistering sun. The ecological collapse would be total. The very foundation of how we track time and seasons would be destroyed. As the rogue planet approaches its closest point to Earth, the physical reality of its presence would become undeniable. If it's a gas giant like Jupiter, it would eventually appear in our sky. At first, it would look like a bright star, but within weeks, it would grow into a visible disk. Imagine looking up at night and seeing a massive striped orb, glowing with the reflected light of our sun, taking up half the sky. The gravitational tides caused by a planet that close would be unimaginable. We aren't just talking about higher waves at the beach. We are talking about the very crust of the Earth being pulled and stretched. This is what scientists call tidal heating. The rogue planet's gravity would pull on the Earth's interior, creating friction at the core. This would lead to a massive increase in volcanic activity. Every dormant volcano on the planet would potentially wake up. The Earth's crust would crack under the pressure, leading to earthquakes of magnitudes we have never recorded. Massive tsunamis, hundreds of feet high, would sweep across the continents, driven by the gravitational pull of the passing giant. Even if the atmosphere stayed together and the orbit stayed stable, the surface of the planet would become a chaotic landscape of fire and water. Now, let's talk about the atmosphere itself. If the rogue planet is large enough, it might actually start to steal our air. Gravity is a competition, and in a fight between Earth and a planet the size of Jupiter, Earth loses every time. As the two worlds pass each other, the stronger gravity of the rogue planet could literally peel away the upper layers of our atmosphere. We would see spectacular auroras, brighter than any in history, as our air is energized and pulled into space. But the beauty would be short-lived. A thinner atmosphere means less protection from solar radiation and a decrease in air pressure. Life on the surface would find it increasingly difficult to breathe, and the protective ozone layer would be shredded. What if the rogue planet doesn't just pass by? What if it is on a direct collision course? In the vastness of space, a direct hit is statistically unlikely, but it's not impossible. If a planet-sized object hit the Earth, there wouldn't be a struggle. It would be over in an instant. The energy released by such a collision would be enough to liquefy the entire crust. It would be a repeat of the event that created the Moon billions of years ago. But this time, there would be no one left to witness the aftermath. The Earth would be reduced to a molten blob, eventually cooling over millions of years into a new, different world, perhaps with no memory that a civilization ever existed here. But let's look at a different, perhaps even more haunting scenario. What if the rogue planet's gravity is so strong that it captures the Earth? Instead of slinging us away or hitting us, we become a moon of the rogue planet. We would be yanked out of our orbit around the sun and taken on a journey into the deep, dark void. In this case, we would lose our primary source of energy. The sun would fade into a distant point of light. Our world would be plunged into a darkness that never ends. The only heat we would have left would be from the Earth's core, and whatever nuclear or geothermal energy we could harness. Could humanity survive as a moon of a rogue planet? It sounds like the end of everything, but it would be the ultimate test of our technology. We would have to move entirely underground. The surface would become a frozen wasteland where the very air eventually turns into liquid and then snows down as nitrogen ice. We would be living in sealed bunkers, powered by the heat of the Earth itself. We would become a subterranean civilization, lit by artificial lights, growing food in hydroponic labs. We would be travelers on a cosmic ship made of rock and iron, drifting through the interstellar silence. The irony is that rogue planets themselves might be the most common places for life in the universe. If a rogue planet has a thick enough atmosphere or a frozen outer shell that acts as insulation, its interior could stay warm for billions of years. There could be rogue planets out there right now with thriving oceans beneath miles of ice, heated by radioactive decay in their cores. They wouldn't need a sun. They would be self-contained bubbles of life wandering through the darkness. If we were captured by one, we might find that we aren't the only ones on the journey. However, the likelihood is that a rogue planet would simply disrupt our system and move on. After its departure, the solar system would look like a car crash. The orbits of the remaining planets would be elongated and unstable. Mars might be sent spiraling into the sun, or Saturn could be kicked out into the void. The Earth, if it survived, would likely be in a new, much more difficult orbit. We might find ourselves in an elliptical path that brings us freezing cold winters and scorching summers. The stability we have enjoyed for the entirety of human history would be gone. This isn't just a fun what-if scenario. Astronomers are taking the threat of rogue objects very seriously. While we are very good at tracking asteroids and comets because they reflect sunlight, rogue planets are the ultimate stealth predators. They are cold, dark, and fast. The only way to detect them early is to look for the way their gravity bends the light of distant stars, a technique called microlensing. Current surveys have already found dozens of candidates, but we have only looked at a tiny sliver of the sky. The launch of new telescopes like the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope will allow us to map these wanderers in much greater detail. We might find that there are hundreds of them much closer than we think. If we did find one heading our way, what could we do? With an asteroid, we can talk about kinetic impactors or nuclear options to nudge it off course, but you cannot nudge a planet. The scale of mass is too great. If a world with millions of times the mass of the largest asteroid is coming toward you, there is no technology we can currently conceive of that could stop it. Our only hope would be to prepare for the orbital shift. We would have to fundamentally change how we live on this planet, building habitats that can survive extreme temperature swings and seismic activity. The discovery of a rogue planet would also be a philosophical crisis. For centuries, we have felt safe in our little corner of the universe. We have viewed the stars as distant, harmless points of light. To realize that an entire world is coming to evict us from our orbit would be a shock to our collective identity. It would remind us that we are not the masters of the universe, but merely guests in a very large and often indifferent house. The politics of Earth would likely dissolve. In the face of a cosmic threat that makes no distinction between nations, our internal conflicts would suddenly seem very small. There is also the possibility that the rogue planet is not a natural occurrence. Some theorists have proposed that extremely advanced civilizations might intentionally move planets to use as interstellar vessels. While this moves into the realm of high-level speculation, it adds another layer to the mystery of these objects. Imagine the rogue planet approaching, and instead of just a dead rock, it begins to emit signals. What do you do when the planet that is about to destroy your climate starts talking to you? But let's stay grounded in the physics. The most terrifying aspect of a rogue planet encounter is the sheer invisibility of the threat until it is too late. By the time we could clearly see the planet with the naked eye, its gravitational work would already be done. The tides would already be rising, the earthquakes would already be shaking, and our orbit would already be ruined. It is a threat that operates on a scale of time and space that is almost impossible to grasp. We are used to threats that we can see coming, threats that we can argue about and plan for. A rogue planet is an act of cosmic geometry. It follows its path regardless of our existence. We also have to consider the debris. A rogue planet passing through the Oort cloud and the Kuiper belt would act like a bowling ball hitting a set of pins. It would send thousands of icy bodies flying into the inner solar system. Even if the planet itself missed us by a wide margin, we would be subjected to a bombardment of comets for the next several thousand years. This second heavy bombardment could be just as dangerous as the planet itself. We would be constantly looking at the sky, waiting for the next impactor to emerge from the chaos created by the Wanderer's visit. Does this mean we should be living in fear? Not exactly. The gaps between stars are enormous. The chance of a rogue planet passing through the tiny heart of our solar system is incredibly low. But low is not zero. In the billions of years that the Earth has been around, it's quite possible that we have had close calls before. Some researchers look at the strange orbits of some distant objects in our system and wonder if they are the scars of a previous rogue encounter. We are a survivor of a violent history, and our current stability might be the exception, not the rule. If we want to ensure the survival of our species against such a threat, the answer is clear. We have to become a multi-planetary civilization. If humanity is spread across Mars, the moons of Jupiter, and huge space habitats, a single rogue planet passing through the system wouldn't be the end of our story. We would have the resources and the locations to adapt. But as long as we are all on this one blue marble, we are vulnerable to the whims of cosmic gravity. We are putting all our eggs in one very beautiful, but very fragile, basket. The story of a rogue planet is the story of our vulnerability. It highlights the fact that we live in a dynamic, ever-changing galaxy. The Milky Way is not a museum. It is a living, breathing system where planets are born, ejected, and eventually reclaimed. We are part of that cycle. Every meteor that streaks across the sky is a reminder of the material that is constantly moving through our neighborhood. A rogue planet is just the largest possible version of that movement. Think about the sheer power of a planet moving at tens of kilometers per second through the void. It carries the kinetic energy of a billion nuclear bombs. It doesn't need to try to be destructive. Its mere existence is a force of nature. If it were to enter our system, it would be the most significant event in the history of life on Earth. It would be a moment of pure, unadulterated reality, a reminder that the universe is governed by mass and momentum, not by the desires of the beings that inhabit it. There is also something profoundly beautiful about the idea of these lone wanderers. They are the explorers of the galaxy. They have seen the spaces between the stars up close. They have traveled through the great voids where the light of galaxies is the only thing to see. If we were ever to land on one, we would find a world that has been preserved in the deep freeze of space for eons. It would be a time capsule of whatever solar system it came from. The scientific value of a rogue planet is unimaginable. It is a piece of another world, brought right to our doorstep. In the end, the arrival of a rogue planet would be a test of everything we are. It would test our science, our technology, our social structures, and our will to survive. It would be the ultimate challenge. And while the odds are in our favor for the foreseeable future, the existence of these objects reminds us why we look at the stars in the first place. We look because we have to. We look because our survival depends on understanding the environment we live in. We look because the darkness is not just empty space. It is a place of infinite possibility and infinite danger. As we continue to build better sensors and better models, we are slowly mapping the dark matter of planetary systems. We are finding the things that don't want to be found. And every time we discover a new rogue planet drifting in the distance, we learn a little bit more about the rules of the game. We learn that planets are more common than we thought, that solar systems are more fragile than we hoped, and that the universe is far more active than it appears to the naked eye. The prospect of a rogue planet heading toward Earth remains one of the most popular scenarios in science fiction, and for good reason. It taps into our primal fear of the dark and the unknown. But as we move from fiction to reality, we find that the truth is even more fascinating. The physics of a rogue encounter are more complex and more reaching than any movie could portray. It would be a total systemic reorganization of our world, a transformation that would touch every aspect of our lives. From the first seismic ripples in the crust to the sight of a new giant in the sky, a rogue planet would be a spectacle of cosmic proportions. It would be the end of the world as we know it, but it might not be the end of us. Humans are adaptable, creative, and resilient. We have survived ice ages and volcanic winters before. Facing a rogue planet would be the greatest struggle we have ever faced, but it would also be our greatest opportunity to prove what we are capable of. So, the next time you look up at the night sky and see the familiar patterns of the constellations, remember the wanderers. Remember the billions of silent, dark worlds that are drifting through that same sky, unseen and unbothered. They are out there, tracing their own paths through the galaxy. Most of them will never come near us. They will spend billions of years in the cold, never knowing the warmth of a sun. But they are a part of the family of planets, the orphans of the Milky Way, and their existence makes the universe a much more interesting place. NASA and other agencies will keep watching. They will keep scanning the infrared and the gravitational ripples, looking for the telltale signs of a nearby guest. And we will keep learning, keep growing, and keep preparing. Because the more we know about the threats that exist in the deep dark, the better we can appreciate the incredible, unlikely stability of the world we have. We live in a peaceful epoch of the solar system's history, a golden age of stability that has allowed life to flourish and civilizations to rise. We should cherish every day of that stability, even as we keep a watchful eye on the horizon. The galaxy is vast, and we are small. But we have the power to understand. That is our greatest strength. Whether it's an asteroid, a solar flare, or a rogue planet, we face the universe with our eyes open and our minds working. We are the observers, the ones who give meaning to the movements of the spheres. And as long as we keep seeking the truth, we remain a part of the cosmic story, no matter where our orbit takes us. The thought of a rogue planet is a reminder to appreciate the sun on your face and the ground under your feet. It's a reminder that we are riding a beautiful, fragile ship through an infinite ocean. The weather on this ocean is usually calm, but the giants are out there, moving through the deep. We respect their power, we study their paths, and we continue our journey. The story of Earth is not over, and even if a rogue world came to call, we would find a way to write the next chapter. The possibility of such an event is a call to action for international cooperation in space. No single nation could handle the gravitational collapse of the solar system. It would require a unified global effort to save as much of our biology, our history, and our people as possible. It is perhaps the only event that would truly force us to act as one species. In that sense, even the threat of a rogue planet serves a purpose. It forces us to look beyond our borders and our differences, and to see ourselves as the inhabitants of a single, precious world. The darkness of space is full of mystery, and the rogue planets are among its most intriguing secrets. They are the ghosts of ancient solar systems, the survivors of cosmic chaos. As we continue to explore, we may find that they have much more to tell us about how the universe works. They are not just threats, they are messengers from the deep, and by studying them, we learn more about our own origin and our own future. So, stay curious and stay informed. The universe is a big place, and there is always something new to discover. Whether it's a new moon, a distant galaxy, or a rogue planet heading through the void, every discovery brings us closer to understanding our place in the grand design. We are on a journey, all of us together, and the stars are our guide, even the ones that don't have a home. Keep looking up, because the most amazing things in the universe are often the ones you can't see yet. As we conclude this deep dive, remember that the Earth is a resilient place. It has been hit, shaken, frozen, and scorched over its long history, and yet, life finds a way. If a rogue planet ever enters the picture, it will be the greatest challenge life has ever faced. But life has a habit of surprise. We are part of that resilient tradition. We are the thinkers and the builders, and we are ready for whatever the universe throws our way. The wanderers may be out there, but so are we, and we are not going anywhere without a fight. The story of our world is a story of survival, and the next chapter is always waiting to be written. Under the light of our sun or in the shadow of a passing giant, the mystery of rogue planets is just one of many that we are unraveling. Each one makes us realize how lucky we are and how much we have left to achieve. The solar system is our home, but the whole galaxy is our neighborhood. Knowing who our neighbors are, even the ones who move around, is part of being an informed citizen of the cosmos. So keep your eyes on the infrared data, your mind on the physics, and your heart on the beauty of our world. The journey continues, and the best is yet to come. Even if the rogue planet were to pass us by at a safe distance, the change in our perspective would be permanent. We would forever be a people who lived through the passing of a world. Our art, our literature, and our science would be forever changed by the sight of that giant in our sky. It would be a generational milestone, a moment where the entire human race shared a single, profound experience. It would be the ultimate reminder of the scale of the universe and the uniqueness of our home. The Earth is our cradle, and we are just starting to look over the edge. The rogue planets are like the great ships passing in the night, distant and mysterious. We watch them as they go, wondering where they came from and where they are headed. And as we grow and learn, maybe one day we will be the ones traveling through the interstellar void, navigating the spaces between the stars just like the rogue planets do. But until then, we stay here, on our blue world, watching the dark and waiting for the next great discovery. The cosmos is a place of infinite variety and infinite scale. From the smallest atom to the largest rogue planet, everything has its place in the dance of gravity. Understanding the dance is the great work of our species. And as we continue that work, we find that the more we know, the more amazing the universe becomes. The rogue planet is not just a threat, it is a part of the grand tapestry of existence. And we, in our curiosity and our courage, are a part of that tapestry too. So stay brave, stay inquisitive, and stay connected to the wonders of the universe. The dark is not something to be feared, it is something to be explored. And every secret it yields, from the composition of a rogue world to the stability of our own orbit, is a victory for the human spirit. The stars are waiting, and the wanderers are out there, and we are ready for the adventure. No matter what comes our way, we will face it with the same wonder and the same determination that has brought us this far. The future is out there, and it is more incredible than we can imagine.